Hey everyone, Tekk here. Welcome to Tekk's Tavern. Grab a brew, pull up a chair, and let's do another Tekk's Travels episode on Defiance. And I'm recording this video mainly in regards to information on PvP and in particular perk builds and tips for PvP. And I'm mainly doing this because I've been seeing a lot of people kind of making a quick draw on judging some of the PvP and getting frustrated because they go in and get killed over and over several times and think there's major overpowered imbalances. And while there may be a few things that do need to get tweaked, I mean, the game's only been out for 2 days, so give them a little bit of a break at the time of this recording. But there is a few things that I learned that when I went in early and was kind of getting basically curb stomped nonstop, I learned a few little things mainly in regards to perks that make a very large difference. And I think a lot of the people who are doing well in PvP have figured this out, and I think a lot of the people who are just queuing casually into PvP with whatever they pick up off the ground and just whatever spec sounds like fun, they're getting stomped and think something's wrong. But let me explain a few things. First of all, if you hit L to go into your, and I'm playing this on the PC version obviously, if you go into your loadouts, keep in mind you have multiple loadouts. Now, I think the other loadouts unlock as you get higher. As you can see, I'm at Ego rank 232 at the time of this recording. But you have a couple of different loadouts, and these loadouts not only allow you to specify certain weapons, but they also allow you to specify certain perks. And currently, the way I'm playing is I'm using loadout 1 for my kind of PvE Arc Falls type build, and loadout 2 is a little bit of my PvP build right now, which currently I'm using a shotgun and a LMG as my 2 weapons. And you'll also see that I'll go into the perks here in a second, but also a few other little small tips. Is one, some people are complaining that they're tired, there's a lot of people cloaking in PvP. Well, there's ways you can combat that, and one of them is just by your grenade choice in particular. You don't necessarily want to use a regular frag blast type grenade in PvP. You want a grenade that's something that is like a ground area of effect dot type grenade. And so, for instance, the grenade I'm using right now is this Bioblast grenade, which for 10 seconds it puts a snare compound on the ground. And so what that does is, if I'm in an area and I think there may be somebody stealthing, I can throw this out and it's going to cover the area. As you can see here, it's going to cover the area so that people that walk through this area, they're going to get snared. And if they're stealthed, they're going to come out of stealth because of that. So you can basically throw that into choke points, doorways, alleyways, things like that. So that's one thing in particular to pay attention to. But the other thing is in regards to perks, which I'll go into that right now. This is my current unlocks, and again, I'm only at 232, so this is not super far in. But I already made sure that I was taking certain perks that would help with PvP and PvE. Now, obviously, I took the cloak ability. But up here, which I think I automatically got this scavenger ability, and I don't know if everybody has this, but I think most everybody who pre-ordered probably has this. But it allowed me to go over here. Now, there's a couple key abilities for PvP that you want to pay attention to, and they will help you greatly and curb some frustration for some people. In particular, there's a couple here. One here is if you do have the scavenger ability, you can go right into this one called Thick-Skinned, which makes you take half damage after your shield breaks. And if you spec it all the way out with 3 points, you get a 3-second duration of half damage. That's pretty large. That's pretty big. I mean, especially if somebody comes up and hits you with a shotgun blast at close range or something to that effect, it's going to help you survive for 3 seconds. And 3 seconds in PvP is a big time period. Another one here is, you can see what I did is I kind of went across here and used a couple almost throwaway ones, but I mean, this is on a rescue kill. You regenerate your grenade and some of your ammo, which is fine. That works great if you slot it. This one has to do with vehicles and all, but what I wanted to get to is I wanted to get to this one here, which is Fortitude, and when you put 3 points into this, you get an additional 225 hit points, which, that's a decent little chunk of health. I mean, depending on the type of weapon that's being used, it's the difference between, you dying when someone does, say 2,000 damage versus, 22, 25, something to that effect. And then there's a couple other ones you want to work towards. Here's one here that just cellular armor, which straight out just makes you take less damage. So if you kind of go on this path like I did, you could kind of go on this path and get 3 defensive things that will really help with PvP just by following this little, you know, circle, so to speak. There are some other ones out there too. You have abilities like hunker down here, which if you do a lot of sniping with sniper rifles, this would be useful because if you're in a crouched position, you take less damage. So if you stacked that ability along with cellular armor, you could get a pretty good damage reduction between the two, you know, stacked together if you were crouched, say, sniping somewhere. So that's a combination to take into effect, you know, keep in mind as well. As you can see here, I have some abilities, things too, like Sucker Punch, which is 15% more damage if you hit somebody from behind. You know, it goes real well with the stealth ability, so that's something that I use in my current builds. But this is all something to pay attention to in regards to PvP. So if you look at this for my PvP build, I currently use the Fortitude for 225 more health. I use the Thick Skinned, which gives me 3 seconds of half damage after my shield drops, and then I'm currently using Sucker Punch. Now again, as you unlock more perks, as you go up in ego rating, you'll get more perks that you can slot. So, you know, when my 4th one comes up, I would probably go with something like the I would probably go with cellular armor once I unlock that. That would probably be something for my PvP build. But yet for my PvE build, for when I'm out doing other things, I use totally different perks. I mean, I use the Hunter Stance one, I use the Hunker Down, so I do more damage and take less damage when I'm crouched. So I use that a lot. I may get off to the side and get an assault rifle or something to that effect and crouch and fire. And then I have Sucker Punch right now, which probably I don't really need Sucker Punch in PvE as much. So I may switch that to something else like a rescue kill. It could be useful in like dungeons and things. But I don't know, I'd probably go with something else eventually. Like maybe I'd like to get down here to this one, which is a just reward to increase drop chance of items. So I may get to something like that I would equip as well. But there's a lot of options, and there is other defensive ones on this tree. Like here is regeneration, which if you get to this one, you could kind of go in this circle and get these abilities, get the health, get this one. You'd have to go down and get one of these to unlock it, but then you could get to regen also, which is a constant health regen. So that would be very useful as well. And then there's a couple other ones as well where here's one where you take less damage when you're standing still. Here's one that reduces the range at which explosives hit you. So, I mean, if you start stacking a lot of these defensive ones up, they're going to greatly help in PvP. And that's why some people may, if you get into PvP early without taking this into effect, you may say, hey, how come I hit that guy, you know, 3 times, and he turned around and shot me once and I died? Well, this is probably why. Because this guy has these items spec'd and you don't. The other big factor, to just add in one last note on this short video, another big factor is shield. For your shield, for a PvP build, you're going to want a shield that has a very high capacity. Now right now I don't have a good example to show you. There's a couple particular types of shields that have much higher capacities, and I don't have one right now because I accidentally sold it. So, but for instance right now the shield that I'm using has a 1288, but I mean I've had one before that had like, the one I used to have that I accidentally sold was like a 1590 something, I think. You're not really worried about recharge rate and recharge delay for PvP. You're worried about just that, the top number. You want a big high number, as high as you can get it, because that will enable, again, for you to survive that initial shot. You don't want to go down from 1 shotgun blast or 1 sniper shot if you can help it. And so the higher the number, the better for PvP. And one last note to keep in mind for everyone out there, if you're watching this video just trying to get some more information for PvP, is keep in mind if one of the main ego abilities, whichever one of the 4 you happen to have taken, if one of them you decide, you know, hey, I really don't like this, you know, blur ability, it's not really helping me and I like doing PvP, you can always change. If you do a respec right down here with this button, as you can see, it only cost me 2300 script to do a respec. The price stays constant, but it goes up with the more points that you have to reset, if that makes sense. So if you have 15 points, it may cost you 2,000 to respec, and you can do it 5 minutes later and it'll cost you 2,000 again. It doesn't go up like some games with each respec. It only goes up based on how many points you are respecing. But you can respec even your core ability. So if you wanted to get cloak, anybody can get cloak. You're not locked in to blur just because you picked it at the beginning of the game. You can respec and change to cloak, and then if you decide, hey, well, I don't like using cloak anymore, then you can change to decoy. And one note to keep in mind is with if you're tired of people stealthing, there is an ability from decoy that allows you to see stealth players, and that ability is, where is it at? I'll find it here. Yeah, I know it's here somewhere. There's an ability that allows you to send out when you send it out, you will see people that are cloaked. And I don't know where it's at. I'm probably clicked on it or something to that effect. So, but again, it allows you to, when you send your decoy out, it will uncover people nearby that are cloaked. So that's a counter to the stealth. And again, I don't know, I should have had it, I should have made a note of where it's at, but there it is, right there, sensor sweep. When you activate decoy, all nearby cloaked enemies are revealed. So that's a useful ability. If you don't want to use stealth and you want to use this ability, decoy, you want to make sure that you take this in PvP, to be able to, in your PvP perks, to be able to, you know, if you know there's an area, you know, like on Waterfront with a bunch of boxes right down the middle, you can just boom, send that, you know, send it down through there, and anybody who's stealth, you will see them. So that's, you know, other little things like that are good to keep in mind. So anyway, I will go ahead and end the video there. But again, for PvP, keep in mind, you want to have some custom perks. You want to go towards some of the ones that help with your survivability. And you want to make sure that you pay attention to the shield that you have equipped and the grenade that you have equipped. You want to have a grenade usually that has area effect type abilities, and you want to have a shield that has as high a capacity as possible. Also, if you can use weapons that add like dot type effects, that is very useful to combat people that are cloaking as well, because if you get one shot on them, it takes their cloak off. So that is another thing to keep in mind. So anyway, that is it for this particular episode. Hopefully this helps a few people in re-looking at how they are, you know, stacking themselves up for PvP, and hopefully it helps you out. It helped me quite a bit once I read some stuff and came to these conclusions, so hopefully it helps you, and I will see you next time in the tavern.